This podcast is a member of the Place to Be Nation family. Visit us at placetobenation.com, the only place to be in your pop culture world.
Place to Be Nation, welcome back to another episode of Lady in the Beard. I am your host, Miranda, and of course, it's a title like that. I can't be alone. So I'm here with one of my best friends in the entire world, Kelley. Kelley, how are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I think that my answer is pretty much kind of the same. It's like, I'm good.
Yeah.
It's not bad. It's not fantastic. But I'm good.
Right. Same.
Yeah. It's one of those, like, I have a million things I could complain about, but I also have nothing to complain about.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just a weird time of year for everyone in general, I think, because, like, the weather's weird, the vibes are weird, everything's just weird.
Yeah, we're starting to get into the hotter months.
Yeah. Oh, for you guys, for sure.
Yeah.
I will say,
yeah.
I don't miss that. I don't miss that.
Well, I can tell when I sit in the office, and I mean, it's just a metal building that I work out of, and the AC works good, but it can't keep up with the fact that everything's metal, so it heats up.
Yeah.
And I have the AC set on 68, and it'll stay cold like that for probably till around 11, around 12 o'clock. It starts slowly going up, and it was like 75 mid-afternoon, almost, like around the 3-4 o'clock area or time frame. And it's only
May.
It's only May. I mean, I told my supervisor, I said, come August, it's going to be, it's going to be harsh. And, I
don't think people realize sometimes just how hot it is, like in late August, in August and like even September in the South, like down where we were in Alabama, it's hot. Like it's not.
It's hot, and it's the humidity. I mean, that's, you walk outside and you come back inside and you're just drenched. So I don't know if, I don't know if I'm going to be able to maintain, doing, being out in the heat like that, because 2 weeks ago I had to move like 3 trailers on a Saturday. That's the worst day that I've had. And I was so exhausted, I had to like cancel our game, and I just felt horrible when I got home. And I don't feel like I wasn't a heat stroke. I just was exhausted from the
heat exhaustion is a thing as well, like separate from heat stroke. But like heat stroke, like people make light of it. It's no joke. Like it is serious. Like
once you have something like that, you're more susceptible to it. Again, I mean, it's like your vulnerability to it, increases. But I'm just worried about having another heart attack out there. That's something that, kind of, it
has to be in the back of your mind.
Yeah, sure. I mean, it is. And both my sister and one of my other friends has mentioned that I should look into medically retiring. But I don't.
Not a bad idea.
I don't know what all that includes. It's like. I'm so bad at. I mean, I know I could look it up. I know there's probably several places you could go online and have step by step on how you could medically retire. But I'm just thinking about the state of our country right now and how everything, is getting cut Medicaid, Medicare, all that stuff is
Right.
So it kind of puts a damper on, even bothering with it.
Well, off air, I'd be glad to help you. I don't know everything and all the things, but I have some family members close that have gone through it, and I can help answer questions and stuff from them for sure.
Okay.
Like, it's definitely not, something to, like I told my mom's looking into retiring as well, not medically, just she's old enough to retire.
Yeah.
And I was like, we need to look into this. We need to see, what would work for us.
Mm-hmm.
What I will say is one of the good things about when we're having like days like that, and we're like, this is too much to like think about, like it's overwhelming, it's overstimulating to like go through all this. We have someone, you and I do, and I know there's a whole fandom as well behind that. We have someone we can go to that we look at as our savior, who has been able to sit in metal rooms and go to the depths of hell and deal with that sort of heat that we could never deal with. So buckle up, boys and girls, and welcome to Sunnydale. Hope you enjoy your stay. We today are going to be having a discussion about Buffy and the Buffyverse in general. It's not a new topic here. It's something that we've brought up a lot in passing because it is one of both mine and Kelley's favorite fandoms of all time. And so we thought it was high time actually to have an episode where we discussed Buffy, how we got into Buffy, all things Buffyverse. And sadly, one of the things that kind of made us go, okay, now is the time, is the unfortunate passing of Michelle Trachtenberg, which you were only familiar with her from Buffy, really. Like, you didn't really know any of her other work.
After when she showed up, I think in season 5.
I believe so.
That's the first I had heard of her. I mean, in a sense, I think shortly after she made her appearance, one of my other friends mentioned that she's not a brand new actress. She'd been acting for quite some time. And then I kind of found out, oh, she did this, she did that. But yeah, outside of, and of course, after she appeared on Buffy, she started getting movie roles. Euro Trip was one of the movies I can remember seeing her in, and so she started getting a little more, I think she started getting a lot more work from being on Buffy. But
well, I remember her prior to Buffy. She actually was, which I'm a little bit younger, so I understand why you wouldn't have been familiar with the television shows she was on, because you probably had no interest in them. But she was a Nickelodeon kid. She was Harriet the Spy, which was a made-for-TV movie. I think there were 2 movies, if I remember correctly, in the 90s, mid-90s. She was also on a show briefly called The Adventures of Pete and Pete, which I used to have a weird obsession on, that ran from 94 to 96. And then she was one of those people that before that, she was just like an episode of this, an episode of that, 3 episodes of that kind of thing. But yeah, I had known her previously from that, or before that, from Nickelodeon, being Harriet the Spy. And I don't know if you ever saw it, but the 1999 Inspector Gadget, she's Penny. I do remember that.
But I wouldn't, like, when she appeared.
Right, you would have just been like, oh.
I was like, I wouldn't have remembered that part, But yeah, I didn't watch a lot of Nickelodeon myself. That was nothing wrong with that. It just wasn't in my.
That wasn't in your periphery at the time. Yeah,
it wasn't my television stuff. So
yeah. So she ends up, after Inspector Gadget in 1999, she gets her role that we will talk about a little bit later, but she gets her role as Dawn Summers. And she was there and part of Buffy from 2000 to 2003 when it ended. And she went for 66 episodes. And it is horribly sad to hear someone, she's my age, so not old, like, we're not old, for her passing. And I think it made a lot of fans stop and kind of rethink Buffy a little bit. And not that they ever forgot about it, but it's brought it to the forefront a lot. And it has been the topic of a lot of conversation, because unfortunately, due to Michelle's passing, but also because we are going to get a new show that we'll also talk about later on in the episode as well. Basically, even though you've heard it before, we're going to kind of both give you a brief breakup or explanation of like how we came to the Buffyverse, what our favorites are. I do have to ask real quick, because I don't know if I've ever asked you this. I know how you came to the world of Buffy and your love for it, but were you ever a fan of the vampire with Christy Swanson and Luke Perry, Buffy the Vampire Slayer movie?
Yeah, I went, and my friends went to the theater to see that, and we all thought it was pretty good. I mean, we were all kind of, I think. I know my friend Chris Smith we were both kind of just sick of the vampire genre that had kind of exploded throughout the 90s.
That's very true.
We were kind of ready for, some vampire slayer stuff. Mm-hmm. But, yeah, I'd seen the movie, and then Danny brought us, he would tape it because his cable, where he was living at the time, their cable package, whatever, had this, the WB. It wasn't the CW yet. It was the WB.
No, it wasn't. It was WB. Mm-hmm.
And our cable company over here, we hadn't got it yet. It would take another year or two before we started getting it. But Danny would tape it and he'd bring it over every Friday, and we would watch, mm-hmm. An episode. We would watch whatever the current episode of Buffy was, and then we'd go get dinner, and then we'd come back and game. So it was kind of like a routine thing that we did for a while. But yeah, that's how I got introduced.
And I've always forgot to ask you this, because so Kelley and I obviously share a lot of the same friends. And every time you have said Danny did this, I've always been like, our Danny? And you're like, yes, but like, which one of our Dannys? Like our Danny that we have a like chat group with Danny? Or comic book Danny?
No, it's
okay.
Chat group Danny.
Okay. Because I realized the other day when we were like, our Danny, we technically have two Dannys.
Yeah. There's one, Danny, that's in our chat group.
Dan Chipotle Danny.
And who also games mm-hmm. with us.
Danny is the procurer of much of our entertainment, honestly. I mean,
yeah.
Yes. And I could understand why you guys at that time would be like over and just done with and sick of vampires. But young Miranda was like, give it all to me. This was like my introduction, because actually one of my favorite book series ever, which is The Vampire Diaries, which became a television show, actually also on, at this point, it would have been the CW, years later. But originally, the first book in that series came out in 1991. And then you have Buffy the Vampire Slayer movie, came out in 1992. Should I have been reading the book when I found it? Probably not. I was probably too young. I mean, it's a YA book. It's a young adult book, but I was younger than young adult. Mm. And then I remember with this movie, it was PG-13, and I still watched this so many times that the tape broke. I was obsessed with this movie. It is on my list of top movies of all time. It's there for me. I think something to be said about the Buffyverse is there are parts of the Buffyverse that we can acknowledge. How do I politely say this? There are people aligned with the Buffyverse, that just because we are fans of Buffy don't mean we align with them. Mm-hmm. Look at you, Joss Whedon.
Yeah, he's become very toxic. Well, not just recently. I mean,
he's always. We've learned that he was like. There's a lot that has come out in the past, I'd say 6 years, that has really shined a light on exactly the kind of person that he is. And it's really hard because I love this universe so much. He even was the writer on the original movie with Christy Swanson as well. My understanding is they wanted that to then become a television series, and it wasn't quite the time for it. And then when it was, I mean, you're kind of moving away from, you needed different faces then. Like Christy Swanson and Luke Perry weren't going to work with that for that story anymore. You needed new faces. Right. And enter one Sarah Michelle Gellar, which she was at her peak at this point. Well, I mean, I think she's still fantastic. That's not what I'm saying. But like at this point, she's doing, movies, especially scary movies. She is known. So to grab her for a television show at the time, I think was very well done. And I think this role, essentially, it's almost like it was written for her.
Yeah.
I was introduced to it also part of the WB. My cousins and I used to spend a lot of time together, and a lot of times on the weekends, especially on Friday nights, I would go stay the night with my cousins. They had WB, and they were like, "Oh, let's check out this new show." And that was it. It was done. It was, for me, I didn't get to see it every single Friday. So they did record it. And so sometimes when we would finally meet up, it would be like 2 or 3 episodes that we would have at one time. But it was still like a big social, kind of like for you, it was a social thing. And it was fantastic. I can't say enough good things about this. I've rewatched this. I know you have as well, like multiple times.
Yeah.
I'd say it's a comfort for both of us, comfort watch.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what I was about to say, but yeah, it's one of them.
I think we did maybe talk about that. I know we've talked about it in a couple of different episodes. It's hard not to, because we tend to repeat talking about the things that we love the most. So,
right.
If you don't know what Buffy is, I think you've been living under a rock. But essentially, we have a young woman destined to slay vampires, demons, and other infernal creatures, and she deals also with daily life, fighting evil with the help of her friends. But she's also a teenager. She's trying to make her through high school, eventually college. She's trying to, just be a normal teenager, but also being the Slayer, which is what she is. She would have, according to her character, she would have been born in 1981. So only a couple of years older than me. They have her as, do you know her character is supposed to be 15, basically, when she's first out there?
Yeah.
So I don't know. I'm going to have to ask you if you could give me, well, before I ask you that, were you ever interested in the rest of the Buffyverse? Because, obviously it started with the movie. We have done the audio dramas, which is the most recent introduction. There were the comics, which I know that you used to carry in the shop. I bought many of them for you. And we have the show Angel as well. Did you read many of the comics or any of them? And did you ever really get into Angel?
I followed the comics. The comic series came out. I forgot what the initial year was, but yeah, I was still, I didn't have my shop yet. This was, in the 90s. But yeah, I collected the comics as they came out, and pretty much anything to do with Buffy, I would pick up, and I did. Angel, I thought was a pretty decent spinoff.
Mm-hmm.
Angel's an okay character. I liked him, but I think the reason he really did work is because he had a really good ensemble cast with him.
Yes.
And
Angel inside the show Buffy, not my favorite really, but Angel inside the show Angel, I really enjoy that. Or when they would do kind of sort of crossovers. Like once Angel came out and they did those episodes where it was like they would start the story of the week on Buffy and then they'd carry it over or vice versa.
Yeah.
I did really enjoy those. But to me, him and Buffy were not meant. They were not a thing. They were not meant to be.
I think for a story arc, it's okay to do that because it makes sense. It's a trope, but that's how you're going to go. But
right.
I think they did a good job at like telling that story and then kind of not letting it just fester and linger. I mean, it did have its back and forth, but it wasn't. I'll say it wasn't like Smallville where you had Clark and Lana. That to me, I was like, you just get over it. I mean, I'm sick of it. I mean,
CW and even before then WB, they are known hardcore. You and I both know this. Even like with Flash, all of the Legends of Tomorrow, anything. The will they, won't they? Yeah. They are like notorious for that, and they think we want that, and to an extent we do. But after a certain point, it's like just complete the thought already. Like just either let it happen or let it not. Let's move on.
Exactly.
So if you had to think of, I'll say the Buffyverse as a whole, maybe not just the show. It's the one show itself. And you had to talk about your, I'd say, top 5 characters. Who would they be for you?
You said top?
Top 5 characters.
Top 5.
Mm-hmm.
I would say Willow is number 1 because that was. Willow just kind of spoke to me as a character when the show started. Her being a witch eventually kind of coming into it. And just to generally kind of, just, I don't know, that kind of character that is kind of naive and wholesome, and it really fit in the dynamic with Buffy and then Xander, and then later on you have Oz but Cordelia. I think Willow would be first, and of course Buffy, Giles, Anya, Spike,
Yes.
And then probably Xander. I'm throwing Xander in there. I know that he's not a fan favorite, mainly because it's kind of connected to the bad press or the bad stuff from Joss Whedon, because it was kind of he kind of wrote himself into the show as Xander, and
and it's kind of unfortunate, but the guy that plays him also is
Nicholas.
Yeah, you were there when I met him, and the interaction was, I don't know, it was very weird. And then afterwards he had this big event, because you met my cousins that were going, and they were part of it, and he actually does this really fantastic, words are hard today. He has this fantastic charity, or he did, that raised money for children, and I don't remember specifically what the need was, but it was a child thing, and my cousin was like the head of it or part of it for. Somehow she was like higher up and helped a lot with it, with these events they would do, and they would go bowling. And you and I were not able to go to that event after the day that I met him, but apparently it ended up being a disaster. And he actually made my cousin like cry and leave. Like she ended up leaving and was like, I want nothing else to do with this charity, with this event. Yeah. I think that is what also gives Xander a bad rap. Not just like you said, some of the things that Joss wrote, like some of the behaviors, but also I think unfortunately some of Nicholas's actions afterwards. And I do have to say I completely understand that he was dealing with substance abuse, and my understanding it was mainly alcohol. And I know that can change people and change things, but I think that has also kind of skewed people's view of Xander as a whole.
Right. Yeah, I think that there were some good, there were some good episodes with him in it. I mean, he had some really good quips and some good, one-liners.
He had some good one-liners for sure.
But, and the writing is not his fault. I mean,
right.
He was only, doing what was on the paper. So, but I feel bad for him coming from somebody who is an alcoholic and understands addiction. It's a tough road. And, but his character on the show just kind of had some unfortunate, dealings that he was going to build. So
I myself have to say, so I know technically she was from Angel, but I really loved Fred.
Yeah, I forgot about Fred. Fred would be yeah. Go ahead.
No, you're fine. I really loved Fred. She ended up years later being on a television show. Hang on. I'm going to make sure I got my information correct. But I really loved Fred as one of my top 5 characters. Spike will forever, always be in my top 5 because you're supposed to hate him. And you just can't. And even when if you're a Buffy fan, even when this most horrific thing, Spike does this most horrific thing, you still don't hate him.
Yeah.
And you're not sure why. But just as a actor as well, I also really like him. It's he's done a lot of interviews, especially recently, about the episode, which is something we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about like your top episodes, and then I have a couple of articles I have pulled on what is considered the best. But James Marsters has actually done a few interviews where he talked about the infamous episode where Spike essentially has to SA Buffy.
Yeah.
And this actually sent him into therapy. Like he did not want to do it. He actually had to seek therapy for this. And I think that speaks highly of the person that he is.
Yeah. So
it's a hard thing to talk about. He has had a fantastic acting career though, James himself. I think he's really great. So Spike would be one of mine. So I've got Fred, Spike, clearly Buffy. I don't know why, but I always really not like identified, but like Buffy made me feel, I don't know. She made me feel like I could do anything basically. Cause like I'm a teenager at the same time. And when this was coming out and like it made you feel like you could just like take on anything.
She was definitely a very positive role model, and I think for a lot of young girls, probably was a positive reinforcement of like, yeah, I can do anything I want, and I can,
right.
So I think the show did a lot of good, having that kind of. This is the way I always thought, you have a strong female protagonist. Buffy's like, to me, like the best role model that you could have.
I mean, she's this reluctant hero, but she does it because she realizes, like, this is what it is. I have to embrace this. But she refuses to do what so many stories have done before, which is do it alone or, like, you know, become this weird recluse or whatever. She insists that she does this with her friends. She's part of this gang. She refuses to give up her, you know, normal, you know, teenage life. She just becomes this and then, like, to enact a plan to activate multiple slayers. Like, she's like, you know what? This is something that you have to do. You know, you have to do. So I don't know why, and I'm sure I could, like, dig deep, but she always presented herself. And I also myself thought Sarah Michelle Gellar presented, even though she, like, at this time in the 90s, like, your body type was like what we saw on, like, 17 magazine, what we were being told in school, all these things. It was, like, very important. And she, in this character, a lot of times when you would watch characters, you'd be like, oh, I don't look like them. I don't know what it was about Sarah portraying Buffy and then just Buffy as a character. I never felt that way. I never felt like, oh, I'll never be that, or I can't do that. All of the things that a teenage girl would usually be going through then when they would watch, like, a movie or a show or something in that time. I never felt like that. And, you know, she is a popular cheerleader. She was prom princess or whatever, fiesta queen, whatever, but she doesn't come across that way. Does she have her moments? Absolutely. But, like, what teenage girl doesn't? Well, I mean, truly, whether you're highly popular or not, every teenage girl has a moment, especially when you have to fight the undead. I mean, come on now.
Yeah.
I also, again, from Angel, I really liked Quinn.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, I mean, Giles, how can you not? He's just... Yeah. And I think they have moments where they try to make you not want to like Giles, but that's just not happening.
Right.
Just not happening. So those would be my top, like, 5 in the whole, like, Buffyverse. Who do you have, or what do you have as far as episodes? Because I know that you have a few. I don't know how many you have, but I know that you have a few that, like, those are your episodes.
Right. Well, I think it's not in any particular order. The graduation, which was a huge arc that was in the first few seasons, of course. Hush, just because it was creepy, and, you know, you had those two slender men looking, and there was hardly any dialogue in it. I mean, it was, I think.
Oh, yeah.
There's one called Innocence, and that was where Buffy took the bazooka to the demon who said, I can't be hurt by any, you know, no weapon forged, you know, to kill him or whatever. And
right.
She was like, I've got this. And she, you know, he was like, what is that? And then he was gone. The parallel universe ones, like where Willow has like a vampire doppelganger. There's this alternative version of Sunnydale. One of the common things is that spell work in this show would go awry. I don't think any spell ever just went off.
Well, I mean, you're over a Hellmouth.
Yeah. And that's, you know, that's one of the funny things is, you know, that kind of stuff. And then, of course, the musical was
oh, yeah,
you know, really, really good. You know, that's the ones I can think off the top of my head. I mean, I think most seasons were pretty good. I don't think there may have been a couple that were kind of filler episodes, but I don't think the series had like, you know, like some TV shows, like I mentioned Smallville earlier. Smallville ran for 10 seasons, started in 2000 and ran to 2010. And even the showrunners left after, I think, season 6 because they were like, we're done. We don't have anything else. This was only
right. Like, what else do you want us to give you?
Yeah. And they continued on. And there was a lot of filler episodes in those later seasons, I would say. You know, the first, I'd say 4 or 5 seasons weren't too bad. I mean, it was kind of monster of the week, but that was kind of what people were watching it for. Or for me, I was watching for other DC, you know, for them to mention other DC characters and people and stuff like that. So.
We know Supernatural did that for a while as well, where it was like Monster of the Week. And I think a lot of people really got into that show as well, also being another WB show at the time, was because they really enjoyed that, like, Monster of the Week. And then later on, we had these really long story arcs that would last, you know, multiple episodes and stuff. I think it's one of the articles I found was actually from Rolling Stone, and it was the top 10 episodes from just Buffy. And you mentioned Hush, which it came in at number 8.
Right.
The creepy creatures things were called The Gentleman, which is very Doctor Who-ish to me. Basically, what Kelley was saying is, like, there was almost no talking in this one because they blow into Sunnydale, steal everyone's voices, all the better kind of cutting people's hearts out in peace.
Yeah.
They also provided catnip for TV critics in the form of mostly a dialogue-less Buffy that episode, essentially. Like, people clamored for this because when you think of sitting down and watch television show, you think full dialogue, and it just wasn't there. Rolling Stone says that this episode is even more innovative than the beloved musical episode, and as a standard for the series, the silence also serves a purpose. In this case, the Slayer and her love interest end up undercovering U.S. government operative Riley do better revealing themselves to each other through action and facial expressions than they could through talking, which I think is fantastic as well.
Yeah.
So I'll go over the episodes and I'll kind of like talk more about the ones that you may have mentioned. So episode 10, according to Rolling Stone, or number 10, is actually from season 1, episode 7, and that is Angel. That's when he kind of goes from guy crush to potential actual object of romance. He's a vampire, she's a slayer, how will they make it work, kind of thing. And they did have really good on-screen chemistry, Sarah and David. Did. But I just, for some reason, I was like, it's not supposed to be. It's just not supposed to be. Number 9, they have as The Wish, season 3, episode 9. This is where it examines her powers through multiple angles. So kind of like turns her into the Southern Belle via magical Halloween costume. It had like a lot of changes in it. There was like the alternate universe. It's kind of like It's a Wonderful Life.
Yeah. That
one was really good. Of course, we talked about what they have listed as number 8. Number 7 was Becoming, which is season 2. Actually, it went across 2. So it was 21 and 22 of that season. This was the second season finale, not only kind of bringing the entire series to like its head at that point, but it completely kind of set the tone for the remaining 5 seasons. This was the 2-episode send-off to kind of tell Angel's entire story from 18th century drunk Irish man to being he was very notoriously sadistic vampire. So this kind of like does that and kind of like overarch. The message from this was basically going forward, the show would not be simple, as you said, Monster of the Week tale, but it would weave in like more and continue to go. They have number 6 as Once More with Feeling, which I think everyone is on everybody's favorite list. This is the musical episode that you mentioned, season 6.
Yeah.
Number 7. a lot of shows have done musical episodes, but this one I think is by far at the top. This is a lot. I think a lot of times they added in just for the sake of it, and this felt natural. This is it just felt realistic. So essentially the whole premise of the show, or of this specific episode really, is a demon has cast a spell over Sunnydale that causes everyone to break out in a song and dance. They often reveal hidden feelings in the process. And while our Scooby Gang, so to speak, tries to figure out how to disrupt this spell and fight the demon, they do drag their secrets into the light, which I think makes it even more entertaining. So it's kind of very, we have this brilliant fight scene, song, dance number. Buffy finally admits that she kind of resents her friends bringing her back. I don't think that's a spoiler. I think if you're here to hear about Buffy, you're already aware of how many times Buffy dies. Yeah. Her and those Winchester brothers both. They've been through it. So she kind of resents being brought back, which we see, it takes place in other shows as well. Another one that you mentioned, actually number 5, is Graduation Day. So this comes across 2 as well. So it's season 3, number 21 and 22. Pretty straightforward season finale. Pure straight Buffy fun. Double episode has our Scooby Gang again battling to stop the very horrible Mayor Wilkins from ascending. He is the sorcerer of Sunnydale. And on this way, we get another epic fight scene between Buffy and Slayer gone bad faith. We have politicians transforming into giant snake demons, which makes me feel very Beetlejuicy in a way.
Yeah.
And so this is supposed to be the graduating class of 1999, which I find funny. I was graduating class of 2003. So I'm right there with you. But this is the graduation class of 99, the death of Buffy's longtime nemesis, Principal Snyder, and naturally the destruction of Sunnydale High in a very massive explosion. So literally we end our season on a, for real. They have number 4 listed as The Gift, which is from season 5, number 22. This was the 100th episode of Buffy. And so, of course, she's saving the world yet again, because that's what she does basically in every time she's on the air. But this time, the season ended in what appeared to be no turning back. She sacrifices herself to save her sister Dawn, who we mentioned earlier is played by Michelle Trachtenberg. Which, do you remember when they introduced Dawn? I don't remember what episode that was. Which a lot of people did not like that initially.
Yeah, I'm not certain.
She literally pops out of nowhere. This whole time, Buffy, to all of us watchers, has been an only child. And then, as Kelley said, I believe it was season 5. I could easily Google, but whenever it happens, Dawn pops in and she's like, "You need to help your sister," or whatever. And everybody is just acting like Dawn has always been there, except for Buffy's like, "No, she's not. Who is this?" There was a lot of people that had a lot to say with it. It's kind of like when you do those shows where they're like 10 years later.
Yeah.
And everybody's like, God. Listed as number 3 by Rolling Stone is Seeing Red. This is season 6, number 19. This is what seems to be a typical Buffy episode. We're going to fight some evil, and we're going to have some soap opera type drama, right? That's what always happens.
Yeah.
It turns into kind of heartbreaking. We have 3 high school classmates of the now college age gang are bent on living out real revenge of the nerds scenario by stealing some magic orbs that impact strength and invulnerability. And the fact that these items in question are like balls isn't even a coincidence, apparently, according to Rolling Stone. They said the entire episode serves as a brilliant critique of modern masculinity's dangers. And I was like, okay. Sure. One of Buffy's villains comes to her place with a gun. Bullets end up killing Tara. This was actually a very sad thing. This one got a lot of fan uproar as well.
I don't think nobody was happy with that. That was,
No.
you know,
That was, yeah. She was such a beloved character, especially at the time, from my understanding, for the LGBTQ community.
yeah.
Because, I mean, we had gay and lesbian characters on screen at that time, but, like, did we have very many teenage ones?
No, that was kind of one of the big things was that relationship.
Right. I remember it being a big deal as well. And listen, I could be wrong. Somebody may come at me and be like, well, this show had it as well. But I predominantly remember this one. And I remember the impact. A lot of my friends were very excited for this coupling and the characters. So them doing that was like, wait a second. You did mention the one that is listed as number 2, which is Innocence, season 2, episode 14. This is when, big deal. They always made it a big deal for a girl. This is when Buffy loses her virginity to her vampire boyfriend, Angel,
Yep.
to kind of find out that he's literally a different person the next morning. And he'd fallen in love with her because he was cursed with a soul by a family of gypsies seeking vengeance. The catch is, once he finds true happiness, his soul will disappear. It's not only a metaphor, basically, for kind of the worst sexual experience as a teenager. It also kind of sets up several seasons of the longing, the will they, won't they.
Yeah.
And for how, like, it actually, and this is one of the other things when we were talking about why this show stuck with me so much. There's a lot of things that Buffy's going through that at my age I was also going through. So it's like that first time love, that first time, like, hurt. It's kind of like, I know it's just a television show, but being able to see it was, kind of interesting.
Yeah.
What they rated as number 1 is The Body. So we're at season 5, number 16. This is when Buffy has saved the world from the apocalypse. So many times it's kind of become even a joke amongst her friends. They have played scores, or they slayed like so many vampires at this point. They have reversed dozens of spells, played with the boundary of life and death over and over. But in this one, they are powerless in the face of a very unexpected aneurysm after Buffy's mother has surgery to remove a tumor. I can't talk. Why are words so hard? Whoo! It's not the tumor. In the first scene, she finds her parents' lifeless body on the sofa after years of handling, kind of dispatching with vampires and monsters. She suddenly sees a regular woman who needs a paramedic. And this is something that she has to deal with on her own. It's not, Giles can't help her. Her friends can't help her. And there are long takes and long silences in this episode. There is Buffy soaking, they even show like soaking up vomit on the living room floor. Her friend Willow is obsessed with getting her hospital outfit just right because it seems like such a weird thing to do, but it's like dealing with grief.
Right.
It's like this, basically the entire episode is dealing with grief and how so everybody dies and it's not anyone's fault and doesn't mean that you have to be you can't be the savior all the time.
Yeah.
There's unfortunately nothing we can do about it. But for Buffy, this is such a devastating and hard thing. That's her job. She saves people. Like, that's what she does. She saves the world. She saves people. Another day, another great day. And this one was really hard to watch, and it's even harder sometimes to rewatch. I don't know how many times that I've cried at this one. But that's what they had as number 1. Were you surprised by this list? They're, 10 to 1?
No, I think that was, that. I mean, it makes sense.
Yeah. There were a few that were left off that I was a little bit surprised about, but at the same time, I think when you have a show that went as long as this one did, we went, 6 seasons, if I remember correctly?
Yeah.
Go ahead and, 7. We had 7 full seasons of which, with most all of them having at least 22 episodes per season. So that's a lot going on there that we cover. So when you have that many to pick from, only narrowing it down to 10, I am with you on it makes sense that those are the ones that they chose. And as far as Angel, the spinoff, it did get 5 seasons, which also doesn't happen very often. There was a lot of crossover. I will say the ending... How did you feel overall about the ending of Buffy and then the ending of Angel?
I thought they were both good. I mean, I thought both series finales were well done. Kind of wrapped everything up. I think that I read somewhere like the way they, the season's finale of Buffy left you with this like, okay, well, Sunnydale's gone, the Hellmouth's gone. Mm-hmm. There's a future, an unknown future now for the Slayers and for Buffy. Angel's ending was like apocalyptic and
I guess just gone.
It was gone. But I had read somewhere that if they had gotten a 6th season, of course they were going to deal with that and have, mm-hmm. and I would think that would have been a awesome season to do another, but the ratings, I mean, that kind of stuff makes or break a show. But I liked both. To mention like other people, Nathan Fillion played Caleb, mm-hmm. that wacko priest in the last season, I believe, which he's another Joss alumni because he played Captain Mal on Firefly, mm-hmm. Another great show that didn't last, but I thought both were well done.
I feel like they were both well done. Something about Angel's ending, though, left more to be desired. And maybe that's because, like you said, they were setting it up where if 6 had happened, if it had moved forward, they had a plan. But it didn't move forward. So with that one, I felt like there was some left to be desired. After both shows ended, though, as Kelley and I have already said, they did kind of keep several storylines going in a sense. Whether it be alternate realities or what have you in the form of comics. And there were even some novels. And there were Buffy video games.
My friend.
I never played any of them. Did you?
I didn't, but my roommate, excuse me, at the time, Chris, he played, because I think they came out on the Xbox. And
mm-hmm. They did have one for the Xbox, yes.
He'd play them. And I sat there and, watched them play. They're very fun to watch.
Mm-hmm. So they had a sci-fi pinball, which was for the PC, that had more than just Buffy. There was Aliens, The Fly, like a whole bunch of different things. They had Buffy the Vampire Slayer for the Game Boy Color.
Yeah.
Buffy the Vampire Slayer for Xbox, which came out 2 years later. And then they had Wrath of the Darkhall King, which was for the Game Boy Advanced. Then the GameCube, PlayStation, and Xbox all get a new Buffy game in 2003 called Chaos Bleeds. Our next one was on mobile devices, which I never knew of this. But it was in 2004. So, I don't know what mobile device they're referring to, but it was called The Quest for Oz. Never knew this even existed. And then the most recent one was in 2009, and it was only on Nintendo DS, and it was called Sacrifice.
I think I've heard of that one.
I had not heard of that one either. It had third-person action and first-person shooter game modes with 20 unique Slayer weapons, it says. I'm intrigued, but somehow I did not know about any of these.
Yeah.
The most recent addition to the Buffyverse was called Slayers, a Buffyverse story. It does bring you, it's an audio series and spinoff from Buffy the Vampire Slayer. It was actually written by Christopher Golden and Amber Benson. Amber Benson was in the show, and she's also a fantastic writer. She played Tara, who we mentioned earlier, unfortunately got the death that she did not deserve. She has actual books out there for anyone interested. I love Amber Benson's writing. She is one of those writers that does not get enough credit, and I don't think people know her talent. Right. She was also writer. She helped write Buffyverse comics for Dark Horse as well.
Yeah, I do remember that.
And she's from Birmingham.
Yeah.
So she helped write this most recent. It has the original cast. It came out in 2023, which I thought it had been sooner than that, but it came out a couple of years ago now on Audible. It was an Audible original story. If you haven't listened to it, it is fantastic. You get Amber Benson, Emma Caulfield, Charisma Carpenter, Danny Strong, Juliet Landau. You get James Marsden. You get the original cast, and it was really well done. So that is the most recent, fully produced, here you go.
Yeah.
But then one of the things that Kelley and I wanted to talk about today is this, and it's not potential anymore. I think last time we briefly brought this up, it was the potential, and now it is happening. It is, I don't know, we were going back and forth on this before we recorded. Continuation or reboot? I've seen some articles call it a reboot, but is it a reboot if they're kind of, in a way, continuing the story and Sarah Michelle Gellar will be in it?
Yeah, I know that I'm pretty sure it's not a reboot, because I think because they're getting a lot of the original people to come back.
Yeah.
So it seems to me like it's going to be like some sort of continuation of like I was talking about how the way the show ended, there was this sense of, the Slayers are going to continue. There's going to be their own adventures down the road. This might be something like that, maybe.
Mm-hmm. So she did recently, actually just a few days ago, on her personal Instagram, welcome who I guess is going to be our show's lead. So I guess she's going to be our new Slayer. Ryan Kiera Armstrong. She looked really familiar, but I wasn't super. It was one of those why do I know you when I saw her?
Yeah.
So let's look at her list. What I think. So she's done. She was in 6 episodes of American Horror Story. She's one of those that it's a short film. She was she was Victoria in It Chapter 2. She was in the Tomorrow War. So, I mean, she's been acting for a while, but nothing major jumps out at me, but I recognized her. It's probably American Horror Story. She was Alma Gardner. I don't remember which season that was. You and I've watched them all, but I don't remember which season that was. So she will be our new Slayer. This article keeps saying it's a reboot. It's going to be done by Hulu.
Oh, okay.
But I don't know. Sarah Michelle Gellar is involved. She said, from the moment I saw her audition, I knew there was only one girl I wanted by my side. And so apparently she had huge decision making on who they were choosing to be the next Slayer. I was trying to see if they said any more about, it says a lot of details about Buffy the Vampire Slayer reboot are being kept under wraps, but Sarah is clearly excited to reprise her beloved role once again. She's told People magazine in March 2025 that she's grateful that fans still feel the impact of the original series more than 2 decades after its first premiered on television. She said the fact that the show is still so impactful to people that watched it the first time along with me, to young kids today that are just discovering it and feel like it speaks to them. Being able to bring more people to her, it's the greatest gift an actor could ever ask for, truly. So knowing that she is going to have a huge role in this and that she will be in it in some way, because could it be, a multiverse kind of thing?
Yeah.
She also confirmed this article is of 2 hours ago, which, listen, the article I just clicked on, don't come for me, but it's from CBR. You know what I mean.
Yeah.
Sometimes they mean well, but they are not always the most reliable. But this is as of 2 hours ago on the day that we're recording our episode, and it does say that she planned to honor Michelle Trachtenberg and said that we are going to do something. We will do what's appropriate. Allison Hannigan even said, I'm sure that they will handle it with, Allison Hannigan is the one that said, we're going to do something and we'll do it. We'll do what's appropriate. Sarah Michelle added, I'm sure it will be handled with utter grace.
Yeah.
So they will in some way, because, you can't, if you're going to have the original characters, you can't just pretend she wasn't there, even though technically they just threw her in and was like, she's been here all the time. And we were all like, no, she hasn't.
So that's going to be it is a reboot, and they're going to, so I wonder if Sarah Michelle Gellar and Allison Hannigan, I wonder if they're going to play new characters, or if they're going to, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
Because there's going to be a new Willow. Is Allison going to play Willow's mom, or is that going to be, I wonder how that's going to be set up. But,
I don't know. Okay, so I'm with you. So most of the articles are calling it a reboot, and I think it's just maybe the semantics between the words sequel and reboot.
Yeah.
But I've got another one here that I'm actually pulling off of the Buffy fandom page that says, Variety reported that a sequel series to Buffy the Vampire Slayer instead of a reboot is nearing a pilot order at Hulu. So, and we know it has happened. So I'm wondering if they are treating it more of a sequel than a reboot.
Yeah.
There are some reactions from the original cast. Emma Caulfield was essentially just like, woohoo, Buffy rebooted. James Marsters expressed, his support. Anthony Stewart Head was basically said, whether it's a reboot, spinoff, revamp, if it's finally something, that's cool, basically.
Right.
My understanding is Nicholas Brendon has not been involved in the project at this time.
Yeah.
But my understanding is there was a little bit there's something going on between the cast, and I hate that, but they have to do what's best for the production. And unfortunately, if it would cause production issues, then
they can't. They've got insurance. Those production companies, have to have insurance on people. So if there's any bit there might be an issue, they're going to have to say, sorry, we can't insure him. Right. Because
he's a liability, essentially.
He's a liability.
We hate to say that, but that's where we're at. Unfortunately, when he's throwing chairs in public and stuff like that, that's a liability. I understand he's really dealing with a lot of demons right now. And I really do wish him the absolute best. I'm sad to hear that he's not going to be brought into this in some way, but I understand that they have to do what's best for the project and the fans and the safety of the other actors. And you're bringing in young actors and actresses to fulfill roles as well. So you have to think of that too. Right now it is listed on IMDb as the untitled Buffy the Vampire Slayer reboot project, but my understanding is with IMDb, you can kind of be an editor like you can on Wikipedia. So like currently it does have the creators listed that are the confirmed creators. And the quick one sentence synopsis says, follows Buffy Summers as she trains a new vampire slayer to fight the forces of evil. Currently the only cast listed is Ryan Kiera Armstrong and Sarah Michelle Gellar.
Yeah.
So I'm intrigued. Are you reserved about this? Are you hopefully optimistic? How are you feeling going into having such a beloved, whole entire verse, be, whether it's a reboot or a sequel, how are you feeling kind of moving into this?
I'm fine. I'm looking forward to it. I mean, I think the fact that it's taken, I think I saw an interview with Sarah Michelle Gellar, and she said that the person that is producing this, and that she's been brought stuff over the years about doing something else, but really none of it kind of hit home or whatever. But this certain person nailed something and got her attention, and so that gives me, anybody can just go, yeah, let's do another reboot and just throw something out there. So yeah, that gives me, hope that this is going to be, a good show. And just interesting to see what they're going to do, how they're, if it's a reboot of some sort, I mean, it's going to be, I just hope they make a joke about the fact that they didn't have cell phones back in their day, because anything now can be fixed with a cell phone. That's one of the problems I have with like current television. It's like, it's so, we got to figure this out. Well, let me Google it,
Right. Or I need to call them and tell them, get out of there now. Like,
yeah.
And that does work in certain situations, but.
Yeah. But I mean, I think about one of the things, I was sitting watching Buffy I think last year with a friend of mine, and he made the comment, he goes like, yeah, it's crazy. Any of these things could have been fixed if they had just had a cell phone,
Right.
Or, they could have called or whatever. And I was like, yeah, I mean, but I'm glad that they didn't. I mean, they had to work around not having that kind of tech in the show.
Well, in a lot of storylines, especially in like these supernatural storylines, sometimes cell phones actually mess up magic. Like,
yeah.
It gets talked about in different books that I've read and stuff. So that could be one way of like addressing it, being like, why did you bring your phone? It doesn't work with the ley line or something like that. Or why did you bring it'd be really funny if like her first hunt, they're out and like, she's a teenager, right? And her phone starts going off because she's getting like these, where are you at? Text messages. And Buffy's like, you brought your phone?
Yeah.
Like incorporate it, make it, because it is modern day. We do have phones. We can just look up, a map. But you think about it. You think about all of even though it was a horrible movie, I'm thinking about the second Blair Witch Project, where basically like most of the movie, they're like, they're researching stuff, right? Like that could have all been done. They've been like, oh, it says right here that it took place here and it did this and it did this. So I want the use of phones, but I need it to be done in a way where it's like, what are you doing? You can't, we're killing vampires. You don't bring your phone. Like it needs to start ringing like Pink Pony Club or something. And Buffy's like, are you kidding me? I have hope because I looked up the creative crew behind this. The name was roughly familiar, but I didn't know who they were. They are a sister duo, Lila and Nora Zuckerman, and they are known for things like Poker Face, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., and Haven, which Haven is on my list of all-time favorite why did you cancel this television shows. It was done by Sci-Fi.
Yeah.
So knowing the things that they have under their belt, the shows that they're behind, I feel like they have the ability to pull off. Because you've got Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., it's got a lot of things going on in it that are kind of otherworldly. Same with Haven, the whole thing is otherworldly.
Right.
I haven't watched Poker Face, but I've heard it's great. So that gives me some, like, not that I didn't have optimism before, but like that gives me an added boost of it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why. Also, the idea of the creators of the new show being a female duo when it is a predominantly female empowerment style show is kind of, I think, I don't know, to me feels like a really good thing. Like,
yeah, I agree. Yeah, I look forward to it. You know, I think it'll be interesting.
I'm very excited. Did you ever, the last part of the universe was basically the only other thing that we have ever had, or there were some novels, and there were quite a few of them. There were, Simon & Schuster actually published 45 original solo novels, and these were from 97 to 2007.
Yeah.
And then there were other publishing houses that did a few other books. There's like 11 of them. One of them I didn't know existed. It's a little golden book.
Oh, wow.
And it's called The Power of Friendship. It looks adorable. Did you ever read any of the novels?
I did not. I mainly just read the comic series. Yeah.
I had several of these because I'm looking at the covers of them and I'm like, I read you. This will be an interesting thing. I have so many books in my TBR pile because that's my big thing is to read. But now I'm kind of curious. I'm like, should I try to procure these? The only thing is, like, if I could find them. Like, are they on Kindle kind of thing or e-reader or whatever? Because I doubt I'm going to find copies of these anywhere over here and try to read my way through them again. But there's 45, and I'm currently on an adventure to reread all of the Goosebumps books. So I'm going to be here a minute.
Yeah.
I'm going to be here a minute. Is there anything else particularly about the Buffyverse or Buffy herself or anything that really sticks out to you that is like, this is something I have to share or this is something I feel very strongly about?
It's just one of those shows, like I said, it's a comfort show. I think part of it is like, when did the episode air where Buffy's mom passed away?
Oh, let me find it. I believe that was, we just talked about it. I think it was season 5. Let me quick. I'll find it. What episode? Buffy's mom. So that one was called The Body. It was season 5. And it's episode 16, season 5. This would have aired February 27th of 2001.
Okay. The reason I ask is like that, my mom died in July of 1999. So
still pretty fresh. Yeah.
Yeah. Still, I mean, that episode, when it came out, was one of those ones that kind of put me back where Buffy was, kind of where she was. And I just remember just thinking to myself, wow, she's having to deal with, what I dealt with. Just, I mean, her character, of course, not her, but it's just one of those things, like, it was still fresh. And I hadn't really had any show that dealt with a parent's death in it. So that kind of became just a very special episode for me. And that kind of, I think, was what cemented it as a comfort show in a way.
No, it makes complete sense. I also think whether it's been 2 years or 10 years or 20 years, if you connect with something on a deep level, it just hits you in a different way than like maybe another person that's also watching it. And they could be the person sitting right beside you watching it. And maybe they're like, oh, that was good. But, and it having this deep meaning. And I think for me, similar to your answer, but also vastly different, is that like I was a teenage girl in these years. I started, this show first started in, I believe it was 1997. So I was born in 85. So I would have been 12 when this show first, aired essentially. And then it ends, we end, May 20th of 2003, which is my senior year of high school. I would be graduating just a few weeks after the end of Buffy. So I literally spent my entire teenage years with Buffy and dealing with a lot of the same normal everyday things, like the rumors, the like relationships, the, arguments with your parents, like forget being a Slayer. And I know there were a lot of other teen shows out there at that time. In the 90s, we had tons of teen shows. This one seemed to really handle things like grief. I didn't lose my father until a parent. I didn't lose a parent until I was an adult, but like I lost my grandfather around this time during, when Buffy was airing. And it's like you said, like just the way that it handled grief, the way that it handled, like, I know that they treat Dawn like she's always been there, but imagine it being like, oh, there's a new person in your family. Like, they just handled a lot of things, in my opinion, very well.
Yeah.
And I know there's a lot of things that are very cheesy. I've done rewatches of this show multiple times, and I feel in a lot of ways it still stands. Like, it still, stands the test of time, as people say. So for me, it has become a deep comfort watch because also there's that nostalgia built in it as well. Like you said, like it was Danny would record it, bring it over, everybody would watch it together, and then you would eat dinner and then you would game. It was a social event for you. So not only was it something that helped you deal with, like the emotions of unfortunately losing your mother, but it also, you were social and it was something that you enjoyed on top of that. Even if you were kind of over vampires at that point, it presented it in a different way. I think that was also the boom for it. Because like you said, a lot of people were over vampires at this point. This, I think, reignited the vampire love at that point. So clearly we both have a lot of love for Buffy. We're excited to see where the Buffy future takes us. I would love to hear what you guys think about Buffy as well. Kelley, anything else you want to add about Buffy?
No, I think we pretty much covered everything.
I think so too. I mean, could you easily go in depth? Yes. I think you could easily watch the show again, break down the episodes, which we've kind of batted that idea around, but we don't want it to take over the entire Lady in the Beard. We don't want to be an entire rewatch show. So it may be something that we do like a little bit of it and then we talk about it just like as an additional thing. We'll have to wait and see, but you could easily dissect this show from end to end in a good way. But I think overall, overarching, we did really well. It does have 8.3 out of 10 on IMDb and an 85% on Rotten Tomatoes, to just tell you like how it's withstood the test of time. So,
yeah.
It says you can currently watch, according to my Google, which is not always the same because I do live in Europe. Like what's available to me to watch on like Netflix and Disney Plus and all that is different than what you guys get. But mine is saying I can watch it on Disney Plus. which I think is correct because of their Hulu Fox merger thing.
Right.
I think. So if you haven't watched it in a while, or it's something that you are like, you know what, I never actually watched it and I would really like to, I don't think Kelley and I could sit here and recommend it enough. Like, we're just going to keep telling you to absolutely watch it. There's no bad episodes. There's no bad seasons. I feel like it's a timeless classic. The fact that we can call this a classic makes me go a little, but it does have a huge cult following, and in my opinion, this is one of the fandoms that is not, one of our initial show out the gate was about toxicity inside fandom. And I will have to say, even with all of the things that we've mentioned, this is one of the few fandoms where I haven't felt a whole lot of toxicity. It's been pretty positive across the board. Would you agree?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure that it does. I'm sure that it has
They all
some,
do,
right? But to me, it hasn't reached that level of I read this article. It's not. I don't think that it's got. It doesn't have that much. I think because
I think it's isolated as well.
Yeah, I think when you look at whatever. I think if you have any negativity, it may be related to the Josh Whedon and the Xander Harris character. But I other than that, I mean, I really don't. It's one of those fandoms, like I said, that it's kind of, it's not targeted.
I think that's what also helps it withstand the test of time and possibly have the ability to move forward and have a reboot, sequel, whatever, is because there's enough potential there and there's enough care. And I think a lot of that is owed, in my opinion, to Sarah Michelle Gellar. So thank you for keeping this franchise, where people still want to be a part of it. So I guess as far as our discussion of Buffy, that'll be it for the day. Do you have anywhere that people can find you if they are interested, a place that you're comfortable with them finding you, rather?
I mean, I'm on Instagram, but I just post goofy crap. It's not like it's not like I'm on there every day. I really don't have.
Send reels back and forth to each other.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. I got rid of all my other social stuff. So
a lot of people did, and that's okay. That's okay. Mine are Instagram and TikTok. That's really the only two that I have public for anyone. I've tried the others. Like, I'm present, but I'm not present. And then, so you can find me on Instagram or TikTok at Mom's Nerd. Kelley, what is your handle? I think it's. Is it Tinsel?
Yeah, Tinsel 2814 at Instagram.
So if you would like to have a further Buffy discussion with either of us or both of us, please reach out. I would give you a spoiler drop for what we're doing next time, but we honestly, because life, don't know what we're doing next time. And that's okay.
Right.
It's okay. Boys and girls, you don't have to know what you're going to do every day. And you don't have to know what you want to do for the rest of your life. Trust me on that. Like, I'm 40. Still don't know what I want to do for the rest of my life. So, Kelley and I don't know what we're going to do next time. But as soon as we do, we'll be back here. I'm glad to share it with you. And we hope that you enjoyed your adventure in Sunnydale. And we'll see you next time.
Bye.